Hi everyone, Sarah Carter, independent consultant with Us from Books and More, and I'm going to show you the chapter books for ages 8 and up, starting with I Am Jack by Suzanne Gervais. There are 4 books in this series. I love this book because it has to do with bullying. Suzanne Gervais is an Australian author, and she's won some awards with this series. I love this book in particular because Suzanne Gervais, the author, was actually bullied when she was younger, and so she based this story off of experiences that she had. There's a section in here where the teacher is talking to Jack about what's going on, and he just gives an absolutely amazing speech to Jack that's super inspiring. I love that she uses her experiences to inform her writing. If you have a child that's dealing with bullying right now, also check out Bully on the Bus. Next up is Penny Dreadful. She's a magnet for disaster. So these are multiple stories about Penny Dreadful in the same book. It's written a little bit in the style of Dork Diaries, if you're familiar with that. But she gets into all kinds of different scrapes. She's sort of an Amelia Bedelia to a certain degree. But this one is a really fun one. It has all kinds of just humor as she thinks up these brilliant ideas that turn out not to be so brilliant after all. Next up is Sandy Lane Stables. If you have a horse lover, these are great books. I like the fact that they change protagonists in each book. It's a group of friends, and each story is told from a different perspective. These are not just girly books. So if you have a boy who's interested in horses, there are books that feature boys as the protagonist as well, including this one. Tom is a horse lover as well, so not just for girls. Next up, we have Uncle Sean and Bill. Okay, this author really reminds me of Roald Dahl. So if you're familiar with his books, remember he's the author of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, The Twits, Matilda. Same style of humor here in Uncle Sean and Bill. Very off the wall, very wacky. Give you a look at that. It has all kinds of funny pictures in here, as you can see. A lot of tongue-in-cheek humor. So this would make an excellent read aloud or for your kids to read to themselves too. I'll just give you a sneak peek of what it says because it's so much fun. For example, the first chapter starts off with your heroic Badger, and it says, Badger Bill was having a very bad evening, maybe the worst of his whole life. He was stuck inside a bag. It was an extremely scratchy and horrible bag, and it smelled as if someone who was also a badger had been crying inside it a few days earlier, and then maybe after that had been sick. So that's a pretty good example of what the writing style is like here. This one is so much fun. Next up is How to Win a Nobel Prize. This one's actually co-written by Nobel Prize winner Barry Marshall. This is the man who discovered that ulcers are actually caused by bacteria. How did he discover it? He, on purpose, gave himself ulcers. He swallowed the bacteria that caused them, and then he treated himself with antibiotics. So this one's a lot of fun because this guy obviously knows what he's talking about when he talks about different scientists. He has his protagonist go back in time to interview all kinds of famous scientists. It's sort of a loosely fiction novel. I'd say there's a lot of nonfiction in it too. The thing I love about this is that once the main character goes and meets one of the scientists, she talks to them and then they have some sort of pithy quote here. So for example, this one, it says, Einstein says, some problems can't be figured out in a few weeks or months. Some take 10 or 20 years, yet once you find the answer, it will be simple and beautiful. So each one tells her a little bit about life, and then at the end of the chapter, there's a little bit more about that scientist and their theory. So in this case, Einstein's talking about the space-time continuum, and then, so awesome, there's an experiment at the end of each chapter as well with things that you already have around your home that tell you a little bit more about the experiment that the scientist has done and what they're famous for. Next up is our Gateway series. There are about 8, I think, in this one. So in this one, Amelia's parents decide to buy a creepy old hotel. She meets a new kid named Charlie, and they suddenly discover that this place is different than it seems. It turns out it's a portal for aliens to come through. It's not really a scary book. I like this one because it really shows the value of friendship. They sacrifice for each other, and it's just a really fun, otherworldly adventure. Next up is the Tanglewood Animal Park. There are 3 in this series. This one is Baby Zebra Rescue, and here Zoe has just moved to a zoo, and so she's learning how everything works with the different animals, what they require. She's helping out, and she makes a mistake that leads to a baby zebra escaping. So she learns a lot about life here as she is learning to take care of these animals. Next up, we have Axel and Beast. So this one's great if you have a fan of Transformers, robots, the computer, anything like that, because in this one, a robot named Beast has escaped from Grab'em Industries, who are the bad guys. He meets up with Axel, and they become this kind of powerful duo for good. Lots of fun there, too. Next up is Extreme Adventures. In this series, there are about, maybe 4 or 5 of them. Crocodile Attack is one of the first ones. You don't need to read this series in order, but in each one, the character is trying to survive some crazy situation. So there's a bucking bronco one as well. There's one with a spider, but not for the faint of heart. Definitely action-packed and fast-paced if you have a reluctant reader. Last of all in this section is the Ella Diaries. You might have seen in a previous video I talked about Olivia, her younger sister, so this is Ella, the older sister. Fans of Dork Diaries will love this because there are pictures. It's like you're reading Ella's diary. These are really sweet, innocent books, by the way, so not a lot of boy stuff, not a lot of drama, just kind of learning to navigate friendships and things like that. So it's good to read this series in order, definitely not essential, but really awesome for kids that, again, still need some pictures in there as well. Thank you for joining me.